Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ask Evette. Today we had a question. Can DNA be changed or downloaded? And how come some say that their download source that changes their DNA?
Hi, and thank you for sending me this awesome question. And here is your answer.
Hi, everyone, Evette Rose here, and welcome. I'm also the founder of the Metaphysical Anatomy Technique, which is a beautiful, gentle, graceful healing technique that's designed to really help you to shift trauma, stress, depression, anxiety, where you feel challenged in your life, even self-sabotage to secondary gains with grace and with ease. You can find out so much more at evetterose.com. And guys, welcome here to Ask Evette. And today was a really interesting question that I've felt very intrigued by. Can DNA be changed or downloaded? And how come some say that they download it from source and that changes their DNA? Now, this is actually a really great question. And I really had to sit with this because anyone can say anything. I mean, we reserve the right. I mean, the world is a free place of freedom of speech, and we can claim whatever it is that we choose to claim. But as most of you would probably know me, I'm a little bit more, I kind of lean a little bit more towards the sciencey side. Like if I can see at least some level of evidence in terms of something changing or shifting, either evidence or change through emotion, state, attitude, or how do you even define enlightenment? But at the end of the day, so when we look at this concept and this question that's now being asked, how can you actually prove, how can you actually say that you've downloaded, from source information and that changed your DNA? Number one, who is source? Who is source? And I'm being very serious right now. What is this? Where is this? How does this work? Now, I'm not an atheist, don't get me wrong. However, first of all, you need to be clear on what is your definition of source. Do you believe in God in the sense of religion? Do you believe in a greater source such as Gaia, which could be the universal laws of the universe? What is your definition of source? Because whatever source it is that you're tapping into, that has its own set of consciousness, that has its own set of information being stored there. Because pools of consciousness, source or God, or these are all held together by human formed thought, beliefs, and values. Because if we didn't believe in it, how do we know that would exist? Dun, 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 right? That's the question. It's not a statement, but it's a question. So based on this information and having a certain level of awareness now just on this, what I've shared so far, can DNA actually change? The short answer is yes, it can change. However, how it changes, that is a whole different story. Now, let me explain because I do have some really cool information I want to share here with you. Because let's look at the concept of how an emotional state that we move into can actually change the expression, how the DNA is being developed throughout our lifetime. Example, thinking, for example, about gratitude. This actually, it literally helps you to heal your body, right? This is an emotional state because it increases your oxygen levels, right? Especially the oxygen levels to your tissue, meaning your body, the physical body, the skin, the blood cells, and it speeds up healing in the body. It actually accelerates healing. And it also boosts your immune system, which means if it boosts your immune system, it means that it has a beautiful positive effect on your gut flora. And the gut flora has an 80% influence on your state of whether you can become more prone to becoming depressed or not, because 80% of serotonin is produced in the gut, not in the brain. And so if your gut flora and your gut microbiome is healthy, your mind is going to be more healthy. And if you continue to, with mindfulness, energize your mind in the positive state through gratitude, feeling the feeling of the wish fulfilled, moving through the immune system, into the gut, back into the head. Wow, that's powerful, right? You can already see the beautiful system that already just takes place there. Now, also, did you know that being in love was also found to actually raise the level of nerve growth, and also hormone-like substances that now restores the nervous system. It restores the nervous system, and it also improves memory. Now, also, if you are in love and you stay in love, if you meet the great person, right? And I hope you all do. The effects of that can actually last for about a whole year. A whole year. And it was also shown that telomeres is a special part of the DNA. When you now, for example, open up the nuclear cell in the middle, you have your chromosomes. You have 23 from mom, you have 23 from dad. And the chromosomes are also now a sleeve of proteins that's wrapped around the DNA. It's not the actual DNA itself, it's wrapped around the DNA. And these telomeres are the ends of the chromosomes at the end of the DNA. And the telomeres are the extension of the DNA after the genes. So now, pause. When you look at people can change the DNA, what is it that they're actually changing? Is it the genes? Is it the expression of it? Is the DNA within its whole self? What part of the expression? The part of the DNA that's connected to source, the part of the DNA that's connected to your ancestry, the part of DNA that's connected to how your body is set up, the biological makeup of it. What is the actual end result of that? And yes, I'm asking hard questions because it's a big statement to make. So when we look at now these telomeres, right? There's not the extensions of the DNA after the genes. It's part of the DNA that does not really program anything. It's just an extension of the DNA. Now, why do we have this? When DNA produces, right? When it reproduces, there's an enzyme that comes in when it's time to reproduce in the DNA. And that enzyme is called the helicase. And it's an enzyme that breaks the helix. As it moves down the DNA, it splits into two different strands. The polymerase comes and then moves down the DNA and it makes a copy of that. And this is how DNA is reproduced. When enzymes now gets to the end of the DNA strand, it cannot really copy the piece of DNA that it is sitting on, because the next move, for example, can be gone. And this happens when there's a tremendous amount of trauma, when there's a lot of negativity, when there's a lot of stress in your life. So when the polymerase now falls off, it leaves one half of the end without a copy to fully complete the telomere. So the next time when the DNA is copied, the telomere will be cut off as a result of the polymerase inability to copy the leftover half part. And this is how disease and biology starts, as well as aging. Okay, so if someone, for example, and the reason why I shared that example with you is because if someone now, for example, says, well, I can change my DNA, well, that's great. Can you eradicate all the ailments and diseases in your life and DNA lineage as well? Does that mean that you can change your mindset to be completely 100% positive all the time, so that a negative mindset does not influence the reproduction of the DNA and the genes and how they express themselves and how they program themselves and reproduce? Great question, isn't it? Now, I'm slowly starting to build a case here, and I trust that you can see where I'm going with this. If they say that DNA can be changed, what exactly does that look like? Because honestly, in my opinion, if we were able to change our DNA like that, why are we still in an absolute hell of a crisis internationally? Why are we still in a crisis? Because if 7,000 people can change the DNA, then it should have a positive influence on the rest of the world. It will open up that potential for the rest of the world, for their DNA to change instantly as well. It's called the monkey effect. We all know that. I don't see the evidence. Secondly, or thirdly, or fourthly, what I talk a lot about in Metaphysical Anatomy Technique as well, because we in MAT, we work with emotions, we work with trauma, and that how it affects the body, right? How it affects the body, how it affects the expression, but also the reason why we have ailments, the reason why we have emotional stress, the reason why our DNA might be dysfunctioning or having a certain expression that's flawed through the epigenetics, meaning just the expression of that. Imagine like the epigenetics is like a little flap on the DNA that opens up and it closes. If it's open up, it expresses. If it's closed, then it doesn't express. So that goes for certain ailments that can be triggered by your environment. So now, if you have a certain ailment or emotional strong traumatic predisposition from an ancestry which comes through, which yes, it can, because a third of your life is an expression of your ancestral's unresolved trauma. Hello, that says a lot, right? The other third is through the environment, epigenetics as well. And the other third is through your own life experiences, how you perceive it in the here and now based on your biological makeup from the day that you were born. So that contributes to all the experiences and how we perceive our life and how we interpret information that builds onto this continued foundation that we're bringing with us from the past. And when you look at trauma, and what I teach in MIT and how this works is if we look at the emotional trauma that could have caused this expression from opening up, if we can do a healing well enough for that expression to shut off, and that expression, listen very carefully, if that expression stays shut down for at least 100 to 200 years, only then does the DNA permanently change. Only then have you created a positive ripple effect permanently in the DNA lineage of your future generation. Do we download information from source? Do we become enlightened through that? Here's the thing, and here's my short answer now. I believe that we can connect to pieces of information throughout this quantum field and bring that information into our DNA, into the expression, into the genes of it, into the genes and DNA's capacity to produce and to reproduce, and the way that we do that. But we also have to look at how our emotional state plays a tremendously big role in that, because that is the reason why our DNA is malfunctioning. Right? So that's really important. It's not just about trying to find something that's now perceived outside of you, bring it in, and now we put a band-aid on a chronic sore, because your mindset is still as messed up as maybe as it was, and perhaps part of the reason why the DNA is in the state that it is. So that's solving half of a problem. The other half is how we show up in it and how we take responsibility for our lives, our mental state, our emotional and emotional state and our health. Everything at the end of the day plays a tremendously big role. So, brilliant question. I feel that we can bring in the potential. We can open up the potential for the DNA to heal. So we bring up the potential, the DNA can align with it. But now we also have to bring our lifestyle, our mindset to align with this potential so that they can merge. And then, yes, I can see how we can potentially make this a long-term positive influence on the DNA. But then you also have to remain consistent, because nothing in life changes with inconsistency. It changes with consistency. It's called evolution. All right, everyone. That was a really great question, and keep asking these really wonderful questions. And I look forward to hearing from you again. And until next time, be the light that you are.
Alright guys, so there you have it. There is the answer to your question. And also remember, keep sending these really great questions, because your questions will also perhaps, trigger answers that can help so many other people that might be in the same place where they maybe feel stuck in their life. And awareness of a problem is a problem to have solved. And with that information, you can take active steps to start to create the life that you want, and to also know and understand where your blocks and challenges potentially could be. So guys, also remember to check out the description box here at the bottom also for all our upcoming events, and also remember to hit the notification button here that you subscribe so that you can stay up to date with all these awesome questions that are being asked, and also the answers that I provide for you. So guys, keep sending these questions, and until next time, be the light that you are.